في طوكيو التقيت أندرسون نائبة رئيس البنك الدولي للشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا، وسألتها أولا عما إذا كانت معدلات البطالة في المنطقة تدق نواقص الخطر.
Well, alarming is probably a strong word, but we find them very serious, as do most of the Arab opinion makers, politicians and parents. The point here is, of course, that we do have very high unemployment rates in the region, averaging between 10 to 14% across the region. The more serious point is, of course, the youth unemployment, where the average is around 24%, but in some countries it's nearly half of the population of the young people that are without a job. And in part this is driven by also many women not being in the labor market. For example, in Yemen, as many as 74% of the women between 15 and 24 or so are not in the labor market and are not in school. So these can be personal choices, but we also know from what we saw in the streets of the Arab world that young people, boys and girls, men and women, aspire, many of them, to a job. So it is an important issue, and it is an issue that we're hearing from politicians, from the street, from the media, as being very important. And we from the bank have given a lot of emphasis to that.
The World Bank has welcomed the Arab Spring, yet it had supported the regimes that have been toppled. Were these mistakes, in your opinion?
Well, when a government is in place for 40 years, I think everybody worked with these governments because there was no one else with whom to work. But I think what is important is that during this time, the messages that we and many others were pushing were messages around transparency, around anti-corruption, around greater access to information. We were proud to, in 2009, issue a report that was somewhat controversial in the region, talking about from privilege to competition, about the insiders and the outsiders, about how it was important to break that sort of insiders in business, in governance, etc. So indeed, I think everyone has taken to heart what happened, and so has the World Bank, which is why the importance of inclusion, social justice, jobs, governance, growth are so key to our work.
Would you still say that the Arab Spring has changed something in the way the World Bank approaches countries or operates in countries?
Absolutely. I think it's changed all of us for the better, as it has changed the Arab world itself and the Arab leaders. We learned a lot from these young people in the streets, didn't we? I mean, here there were young people taking courageous steps in times of great uncertainty. The outcome was not known. That's an amazing thing, and you can't but connect with that. And so for me personally, and for us as an institution, this was inspirational. And it was something that we found awakened our own sense of how we can best support these transitions, what it is that we should be doing to help in this difficult time of transition.
Just 2 months ago in Egypt, you signed a new deal for a loan for the Egyptian government. What's next for Egypt, and do you see the country on the right track?
So yes, I was very pleased to immediately after the new government, actually I think it was 4 days after the new government was announced, and in the presence of Prime Minister Hisham Khadil, signed a first loan with the new government for 200 million to create jobs. Jobs, 250,000 jobs for Egyptian youth and folks that are not in jobs. So that was an important signaling for us that we are here, we are with the Egyptian people, we're with the transition, and we are with this change that is being led by the government of President Morsi. When President Morsi took office in early July, unemployment, he was facing a lot of issues. Unemployment, 14%, the economy, you know, in difficult shape, also because of the Eurozone crisis and because of the investment climate at home. We're very encouraged by messages that we are hearing. I think President Morsi gave a speech on October 6th where we were talking about the importance of finding fiscal balance and dealing with some of the reforms while protecting the poor and the vulnerables. So what's next for Egypt? Obviously they have a political transition to constitution, all of this. This is less for us, but for the Egyptian people. And then finding a way to boosting the economic growth, to finding a way to making more inclusive societies, finding a way of creating jobs for the young people, and finding a way of creating greater voice. And here I think our program is very much aligned with that.
Mrs. Anderson, in 2010 we were talking about close to $4 billion in loans from the World Bank to the Arab region, and that dropped understandably during the Arab Spring. What are we going back close to that figure in 2013?
We're ready, willing and able. I think, and so our program is large and wide. We have approved in just the last few months what we call strategies, sort of programmatic documents that have been approved by our board of directors to support these transition governments. We approved one for Yemen, we've approved one for Egypt, of course, one for Tunisia, and we've updated our work in Jordan and in Morocco, precisely to be able to offer resources, to offer technical assistance, and to offer support in this time. So the amount will be up to the countries, what their needs will be, but on our side, we are ready. We're ready with infrastructure finance, we're ready with budget support, we're ready with technical assistance.
Since you mentioned Yemen, the donors had pledged some $6.4 billion to aid the country. When do you expect the money to start flowing into the country, and where will it be used and how?
Well, I was very pleased to be co-chair of the donors conference in Riyadh together with His Excellency, the Minister of Finance, Al-Asaf from Saudi. And I have to say, Saudi Arabia has been a huge player, as has Qatar, in supporting Yemen. And here I think not only did we get more than $6 billion committed in Riyadh, and then in New York at the point of the General Assembly, we got another over $1 billion. So we are now at $8 billion. So when do the funds start flowing? From the bank side, we've already signed the first project for $60 million to create jobs again, labor-intensive works. And I know that other programs are being signed as we speak. So it's really a process that's moving very fast. We are seeing the Yemenis encouraging some of the resources to go into what they call fast dispersing platforms, the social fund, rural roads, labor-intensive works, things of this nature that can quickly put money in people's pockets, jobs and opportunities, and drive economic, boosting the economy. At the same time, we are also seeing that there is a need for infrastructure, and I know that many of the Arab funds are looking towards that. Infrastructure takes longer time. You have to design and bid and such. So it's important that we have two tracks running at the same time, while supporting the humanitarian assistance as well, which the UN, the EU, and the Arab friends are being very supportive of as well. So I think the humanitarian, the longer-term infrastructure, and the fast dispersing, these are the things we are seeing. And the good news is we are already seeing some of this money, but some of the bigger projects, the highways, etc., will of course take a little more time.